Frank Gruber has been an environmental, education, and affordable housing activist in Santa Monica for more than 20 years.
You're tuned in to Meet the Candidates. I'm Sandy Jacobson. Joining us today is Frank Gruber. Thanks for joining us, Frank.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So let me ask you about development. If elected, how would you decide which development agreements to support, and what would be your criteria?
Well, the first thing you have to understand is why we have development agreements in the first place. State law provides for them because there's certain circumstances where they recognize that you might want to go beyond the current zoning, particularly for big parcels. That's the whole idea of it when you're going to do something that's very planned out over a large area. So, but the purpose is that by having the development agreement, the public can get more out of the project and get a better project than the public would have gotten if the developer just followed what the existing zoning was. So that's really has to be the basic criterion that guides you. As for any kind of particulars, you have to look in a kind of big sense of this thing. In terms of a lot of the big development agreements that are coming around the area around Bergamot Station, the old industrial areas of Santa Monica, during the development of the land use and circulation element, I argued, I was writing my column in those days for the Lookout News, that the LUS, as it was called, it authorized too much office development. And the reason why I said too much office development is because Santa Monica had vastly overbuilt office development in agreements going back to the 80s, and it was time to balance that. And any new development over the existing development should be housing. So that's the kind of criteria that works into as you evaluate individual development agreements.
Let's talk about this terrible drought. Do you agree with the current water restrictions adopted by the City Council, or the regulations, I should say? And do you think they're too strict, not strict enough? If not just right, what would you do?
Well, I think that the City Council really tried to get the appropriate balance. I think we're going to have to see how they work out. I think a lot of issues come out of the fact that we have been conserving water a lot in Santa Monica going back about 20 years. We all have low-flow toilets, if you've done anything like that, any low-flow shower heads, all that kind of stuff. So for people who are living, say, in apartments, it's very difficult for them right now to reduce the amount of water consumption they have, assuming those steps have been taken. Now, I think that what the city needs to do is if fine money comes in from the new plan, they have to use that money to say to people, say, who are in apartment buildings or apartment owners who haven't done those upgrades, let's use those money to get those upgrades done. And that's the kind of balance that I'd be looking for.
We talk about affordable early childhood education, especially for infants and toddlers. It's a great need in the city. Do you see a role for the city government in that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm a big supporter of what's been called the Cradle to Career Initiative. But even before that, my view, and the city already, I have to say, I've heard something like $35 million into various kinds of programs for children of different ages. This is an important thing because the schools have a great responsibility, but they cannot, they only get the child, when they get the child. Mm-hmm. And there's so much before that that determines how well the student is going to do, the child is going to do as a student. And that's as a society as a whole. And the schools obviously don't have money to do that kind of work. And so it's very important for the city to be involved in the early childhood education.
Let's talk about the traffic and parking impacts of SMC around that campus.
Yeah.
The impact on the residents have been great because people, students drive around, park on the street. What do you think we can do about something like that?
Well, we've done terrific things, I have to say, in the last few years. SMC cooperating with the city and the Big Blue bus. That number 7 bus takes on, I don't have the data right now, but many more people, students, are riding the number 7 particularly since they instituted the free pass with the SMC student card. So we need projects like that, but this gets into even a bigger transit issue, which is I think that we need more of what I call point-to-point buses, express buses that don't just work along the grid, slowly along the grid, but let's identify where our students are coming from and put buses that start there run whatever they need, whether it's over the HOV lines or the freeway lanes of the freeway, if it's going that far, or just straight without stopping to Santa Monica College, to give an advantage to students who might otherwise drive. You put Wi-Fi in those buses, a lot of things like that. It's like what Google and Apple do with their workforces up in the Bay Area.
Thank you so much, Frank. Many thanks for joining us today. Be sure to get out and vote on November 4th.